Hello, Facebook family, and whoever wishes to spend some time just listen to these few words that I want to share with you. Disbanding myths and rumours about tools that a medium may use or a psychic may use to help build up communication between us and the world we call unseen. Obviously, everything we are striving for is to prove the continuity of life beyond life. So some people will go to mediums, and through their senses, the medium will relay information to you, and that will hopefully become evidence by you saying yes or no or I don't know. Throughout my mediumistic awareness, I've looked into different ways of trying to build up a communication between myself and my friends, as well as building a communication between who I am, my soul, and my soul's power, my soul's growth. And I've noticed throughout my mediumistic understanding that there seems to be two powers. There is a psychic power and there is a spirit-induced power. Now, what I mean by that is that when we are working psychically or having some form of psychic phenomena may have no intelligence with this forms of raps, taps, bangs, or objects just fall into one side. With spirit-induced phenomena, it is intelligent. So you will say to your friends, are you there? Can you show me a yes? And you hear 2 taps for yes, 1 tap for no, 3 taps for don't know. So you can have an intelligent conversation with the knocking of phenomena. But when you get phenomena that doesn't seem to have no intelligence, no reasons, no understanding behind it, I like to put that towards being a psychic phenomena. But tonight I want to talk to you about the Ouija board or the spirit board. And a lot of people have fear, and it's so misunderstood. And I put a picture on yesterday which stirred up quite a lot of interest in the sense of how to use it. You know, is it bad? Is it good? Let me make this absolutely clear. The Ouija board itself is a point of focus. It's made out of wood or plastic or glass, and it's the intent that you lay before it. So, for instance, I would never work with the spirit people if I have a drink. And that is a personal preference. But if you looked at Albert Best or other little organisations as well, they actually promote alcohol. Now, what I mean by little organisations, there are a school of thought at the moment in this present day that if you have alcohol, it opens you up to the spirit world. I personally believe that we should be the voice of the spirit and give ourselves to the highest source, and make sure that you are the best voice that you can be for those who have lost their voice. But going back to the intent and knowing that the spirit board is just a board. I remember when I first met John Austin, who was a gentleman who brought me into the world of physical mediumship. When I first met him, he was talking to me and he said, let's do the board. And he didn't tell me what the board was. I thought the board was something completely different. And then he brought out the Ouija board. And I said, I'm not touching that. And he looked at me quite puzzling, and he said, why? And I said, no, I'm not touching that. And he said, do you think it's going to hurt you? And I said, yes. And he literally picked the board up and hit me across the face with it. And he said, that's the only thing that's going to hurt you. Put your finger on the glass. And he was quite strong about instilling that our friends from the spirit world will never hurt us. I don't necessarily agree with earthbound spirits. I don't necessarily agree with rescue circles. Through the intelligence of the spirit world and asking certain communicators and in trying to investigate myself, the spirit world doesn't need rescuing. They come and rescue us. And I know this is going to be a little bit controversial, but I feel it's important that I share a view with you, because we do receive a lot of emails of people who are concerned or scared about certain things. Now, ghosts exist. They do exist. But the difference between a ghost and a spirit will always talk to you. A ghost will never speak. It is just a memory. It's like me spraying aftershave on and you smell me, you understand my sense, you understand my personality, my presence within the room. And as I walk away, you can still smell me. But any form of love that I have or that is starting to slowly ebb away. So it's just the memory of who I am that is left. So that's the difference between a ghost and a spirit. A ghost exists, but it's just a memory. They will not talk to you. A spirit person will always try endeavor to make a form of acknowledgement that you are aware of their presence. But going back to the Ouija board, it is literally a tool. Now, if I look at other aspects, if people are feared of the Ouija board, they will be feared with the table, or they'll be feared with the seance trumpet, or they'll have a fear of the cabinet. But it's just a tool, like a spirit portrait artist will use a pencil to express that power through them, or someone who's doing automatic writing. Now, of course, people know that I am quite strong in my views. So if I was using a medium, my presence will be quite strong in the sense that I want to tell the people who are left behind I still live on. I want them to be happy. I want to bring them smiles. I want to bring them memory. But I've got quite a strong personality. And some people could say that's intimidating. Some people can say that that's where someone needs to be at that moment. Now, I also swear like a trooper. I swear like a sailor. So if I came through a medium and I was all love and light, then my family will turn around and say, but that wasn't the person that I know. So please expect that when we do the board, we will be possibly having swear words come through. Someone could call out numbnuts. Numbnuts could be a nickname, but if they start spelling that out, people may say, well, actually, that's not intelligent. It could be a code that the spirit world are trying to get through. So let me just introduce you to the boards first of all, so you can see there are many different types of boards out there. I personally used to love sitting for the Ouija board, but now it's very sluggish, very slow, and it doesn't normally move with me anymore. But I start to receive internally thoughts going through my head of the person that is drawing close, trying to communicate. So it's more of a mind-to-mind communication. But let me just introduce you to a couple of friends of mine. Hopefully it will change over. So this is just a basic one. This is one of my circle members. I had this made for her, and she sits with it and she gets some lovely stuff, and she said for me to try it. So it's just basically a piece of pine wood and use the Scrabble letters all the way around, creating a no and a yes. And the alphabet goes around in one side. We don't have numbers on there because we think it's quite simple as it is, as it stands. What you would use is an upturned glass, or you can use a planchette or a marker, and simply place that on the wood, put your fingers lightly on the marker, and then allow, obviously, thoughts to be emptied, and then hopefully it will start to move. What you may find with the Ouija board, first of all, is that it will either start to spin in a clockwise manner or anti-clockwise, and normally that is just them, building the power, building an understanding. But then what you may find is that as it starts to spin and it gets faster and faster and faster, it may move to the middle, and then it may to letters are making no sense at all. This is just what I like to think, that the spirit people are just starting to understand where the letters are, flexibility they have within movement, and then you may find that they'll start to go around each letter and going round, and like I said, your hands very, very lightly on the marker or on the planchette, and then after it starts to investigate some letters, you may find it move in the middle, and then you can say, friends, am I allowed to ask a question? And you may find that the marker will move to no, or it may move to yes, depending on the person, if they're prepared to speak to you at that moment. Clairsentiently, as a medium, we will be feeling a drawing of power from us. So when people say, when I sit for the Ouija board, I feel sick, this could be just a simple drawing of power. So please move with it. But if any of you have fear with any forms of tools of communication like tarot, like Ouija, table tilting, anything like that, I always say stay away from it, because that is the fear you're going to be providing for the other world to use. You know, when they say like attracts like. So if any of you are nervous with the board, I would say stay away from it, don't touch it. But just remember, this is just a piece of wood, and there is an intelligent mind hopefully working with this. Now, if you start getting the planchette moving and it's making no sense at all, you're not really feeling the presence of the spirit world, it feels quite empty within the room, this could be a psychic power. This is just the soul's power creating, and this is where you'll get jumbled up words, maybe some form of non-truths with this. So we look at the phrase of Silver Birch. He always says try and test the spirits, and you just say, look, okay friends, you know, if you are able to step closer, and then hopefully you'll feel a change in vibration, that the room will start to feel warmer in a clairsentient manner. You will get cold, you know, from the knees down. That is a very common thing that occurs while you are doing the board. So you can start off with a simple board with a planchette or a glass turned over. There are other boards at the moment which are from Anne Stokes, which are artworks. Now the artworks seem to be dark. Original Ouija, very simple setup, very similar to this one, but they may have skulls and may have symbols that are to invoke the dead. Now, a lot of people say to myself and to the spirit people, you know, it's wrong to disturb the dead. The dead started it first. The dead were the ones what came to us to save us from our insanity, save us from our thoughts of grief. So the board with this one, instead of it being in a circle, it's a very much in a letter form in lines. And then you've got the numbers at the bottom, you know, goodbye, yes, no. And I always say that when you are starting with the board, once you start to get intelligent communication, you've obviously got to put your energy into the board so the spirit world have got something to work with. This is a different form. This is, again, a planchette, a very basic design. Same principle. You can place one hand or two hands. If you're sitting with other people, you put your hands very, very lightly on it. You can tell when someone's got their hands too much. It may start to turn and be quite jolting. And also you look at the colours of the nails. If someone presses down too hard, you can see the colour of the nails change. So get them very, very lightly. Normally when the board starts to move, you find that you're trying to chase it. So you'll see that the hand is slightly moving away from the marker as it's starting to move. I always got this feeling like it was a magnet. When my hand was on there, I would feel this like kind of pulsing, like my fingers were becoming the marker, and I started to get a drawing of power. It felt like my fingers were going into the board, and then it was just like something was pulling it backwards and forwards. Now, with any form of communication, you have to work with it. If you're going to get it and you think you're going to get communication straight away, it's very rare. You have to allow it to become an extension of who you are. So the more love you put into that atmosphere, the more patience you provide, the spirit people will be able to work more with the board. So you have the Anne Stokes ones. Make these at home, like I said, just using cut out pieces of paper. But again, I'm stressed, if there is any fear, you do not touch it at all. Now, the ones that we've got lately, we've been looking at are these ones here. Again, there's an artist who has used some kind of mystical design to make it a bit more spooky. But I have to say, I love cats, and I actually really dig the colours. I think it's really beautiful. It comes with a marker, and it's also a table. I find it great because my back being tall, if you've got a big table and you've got to stretch over, my back suffers greatly. But with the Ouija board, yet again, it comes with a marker. I did find there was a problem with these markers, that you find that underneath it came with these kind of tabs. And obviously they've been designed by a person that doesn't really understand how crucial having a very smooth marker. So I've taken those stickers off. I find it moves easier now with this one. can you hear it tapping? That will get annoying, and it will be very, very hard for our friends to move. So the only downside to these is that you have to take these stickers off, warm water, and off they go. I found it actually worked better turning it upside down. It moves nicely, no resistance. But when you turn it over, it's very, very hard to move. So here you go, slides straight off. So when you are sitting there, you know, it is very nice, it's very smooth, it's very fluid. Now, again, with the Ouija board, like any form of work, I always say I open in a form of a prayer. I don't ask for protection. I don't necessarily believe, because again, it's the intent. A good friend of mine earlier on today said something which I have to steal, and I couldn't believe it because it was so simple. That when you are going to the supermarket, you may buy a set of knives, and these knives are to make good food. You know, you cut things, and that's the intent. But then someone may want to buy those knives and go out and stab someone, and that's the intent of it. So again, it's about to the spirit world and saying, look, if you're able, you know, as I sit here and blend with you, may I invite you to this table, and may we see what we can do together. And gently on the marker, and then hopefully it will start to move. It will start to give you intelligent communication. But as I said to you, it's the intent. I sat for 24 years, and I still sit today, to work with the trumpet. This is the trumpet. This trumpet was used with Colin, and it was used in my home circle to this day, where we sit there, and our intent isn't for this to move, it's providing the conditions for our friends to work with. And so if this moves, this is just the bonus. But I found when I was doing the board and having my hands very lightly on here, and I worked with a lady called Wendy Marsh and Brenda Sheridan, and they used to sit in Colin Fry's home circle, and sitting with them, I felt very, very quickly there was a kind of energy, there was an atmosphere that was being created, which they had sat for many years, and then placing their hands very gently on the glass, it started to move very, very rapidly, and I mean it was literally boom, 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 boom. But I started to find in my head, I started to know what was about to be said. So what I did is, because it was mind-to-mind communication, I took my hand off the marker, so it wasn't me who was influencing it. And when I started saying, "Is that you?" and who we had quite frequently was Magnus, who was the voice of the Swift Circle through Colin Fry. And how we used to back this up is that we used to sit on the Thursday in the afternoon, and then on the Friday night we would sit with Magnus and say, "Magnus, if this was you, can you tell me about the conversation that we had?" And he would then come through and repeat what we had through the board. Again, Silver Birch said, "Try and spirits," and that's we did it in a loving way. But I found that the more I started to sit with the board, and I became very, very tired very, very quickly, and I realized that I was moving into the presence of the spirit. The presence of the spirit induces this kind of sleepy state, and as my hand was on there, I felt myself starting to nod away, ebb away, and as I started to ebb away, I realized I was slipping into what we call the hold of the presence of the spirit. And whilst in that presence, I was aware of color, I was aware of other things. So this is a stepping stone for greater things to come, as long as the intent is there. Like I said to you with the Ouija board, it is just simply a tool. Now this is glass, and so is the table, which is glass. I myself, I love it being a table, but I'm actually going to dismantle the legs, which twist off, and probably had this marked on the wall because the colours are beautiful. I love cats. I like the cheekiness of it. And of course, being a spiritualist, I like the idea of looking at different forms of communication. But like I said, this will work for you if you allow it to become an extension of you. You melt away the fear. You have logical, rational ways of thinking, but have in your mind that this is going to be communication. And communication has never come to insult you. It never has come to give you fear. It is only coming with love. Now, we probably throughout our lives at one point wanted to try the board, and we've approached it with a big amount of fear, especially when we were younger. We are more open, but we're more receptible for the ideas of allowing a bad thought to move in. I shouldn't be doing this, we've got, and all these thoughts are energy that you're going to be putting in, is being. You'll find that when children are going through puberty, that if they try to do this will react very, very aggressively, because this is the auric field of that child that is working with it. Now, with mental health, if you look at the auric field of someone who has a form of condition where mental health is concerned, you'll find that the auric field is different. I find that children with autism, their auric field are much more brighter than you and I, because a child with, say, Down syndrome, all they want to do is give you hugs and give you love, and their auric field is so bright and so strong. Now, I've never seen a child with that form of autism use the Ouija board, so I can't comment on that. But looking at the colours within the auric field, that they're more aware of the spirit world and compassion than you and I. Now, mental health, unfortunately, is quite rife within our movement, in the sense that people, with the chemical imbalance within the brain, with the dopamine, that they may choose then to think there is an evil spirit that is there with schizophrenia, etc. We were trying to do a study with schizophrenia to see if it is possible that they may be more open to suggestions, and what they are doing is picking up on thoughts within the atmosphere. Now, when we are developing our sensitivity, you may find that you have a moment where you hear the when you're going to bed, thoughts of people who are living. I remember I would hear my sister talking, and I said to Magnus about it, and Magnus said, you are picking up on the etheric realm. This is the realm where people are going towards our world in the moment of sleep. And so we wanted to look at doing a study, but it's going to be very difficult for us to go into an area where it isn't controlled with mental health, and to try and test to see if there is a theory behind this. When you look at the auric field with someone with schizophrenia, you'll notice all over the place. There's no balance there, and as a spiritual healer, we can try and balance and harmonize those colors out. If we were looking at trance healing, I would never look at doing trance healing with someone who has schizophrenia. It won't be beneficial to them. It's spiritual healing that I find would have more of a grounding experience with them. But going back to the Ouija board, by getting just a simple marker and placing your hand on there, as I said, lightly and open awareness of the spirit world, so that spiritually you are giving something of yourself to this piece of dead material, which then the spirit world draws close, and as they enter the auric field, they are being given some strength to actually then create the phenomena. These tables have come in different designs. You've got the black cat, you have this other beauty here, and along with a cheeky face board here. I quite like the deep colours of this one here. As I said to you, it reminds me of my own cats, and I find it very, very wonderful to have a look at this. But so many people are into the drama of communication, and that is just fuss. Of course, people have their own experiences, but I ask you, before we make our determinations, to investigate it. For instance, like a haunting, you may get there and you may have a spirit person that's trying to stop something great from greatly harmful happening, in the sense of a child that maybe being bullied to sell drugs, or someone who is going down the route of hurting themselves, and the spirit people may be trying to get their attention, or trying to get the attention of people who can help that individual. So before we cast them as a bad spirit, we must go and listen to the voice that others cannot hear. And you may find that the spirit person saying that this person is being bullied drugs, and I'm trying my best to ensure that they don't go down of harming themselves. So people will start to use the board. You obviously get the misunderstanding of communication, and that creates more fear and so on and so forth. It really upset me the other day. I saw something online where someone said they had to get the pastor in because their daughter was using the Ouija board, and the parents did not agree with it, etc., and all of this. And it was so fear-based. If we look at possession within the Spiritual National Union or spiritualism, there has been countless cases that the spirit world draw close, but not once have they possessed. But then you go to a priest or a different religion, and they do a religious ritual which is supposed to shock the soul and shock the spirit of this benevolent person that's drawn close as an attachment. I think spiritualism, we have learnt a lot in the years that we have called ourselves spiritualists, and what we knew back then is different to what we know now, and it will be different after we have gone from this earth. But I wanted to come on here and share that with these boards, with the seance boards or spirit boards or anything, they are just a tool that can be used to give you great communication. But if there's fear or fear-based, don't touch it. But I ask you, what is the difference between this and sitting for this, the trumpet? What's the difference between the trumpet and sitting, hello, that's my cat, for the table, and allowing the table to write a portrait artist? Or using crystals to give healing? They are tools. It is the intent. But if people see it as a game or see it as a drunken night, then yes, I become strong and say, look, you're not giving yourself to the right people. Now, when you are working with the Lord, your senses will open to suggestions from the other world. And I hope, wherever possible, the spirit world gives you an intelligent conversation. So this is just my thoughts on Ouija boards. After studying for 24 years, looking at different ways of communicating, I probably am naive, or I'm probably incredibly lucky that I have never seen the spirit world harm the living. I have seen the living harm the living, and I've seen the living insult the spirit world. I go back to the phrase with Silver Birch, try and test the spirits. My father would call me nicknames, and just having him draw close and give me one of my nicknames, which was normally a little bit cheeky, then I know that is from my dad. But if my dad came through and started spouting out religious stuff, love and all that, that's not my dad. My dad and I had a wonderful sense of humour, a wonderful relationship, and I hope that even though his voice may be silent physically, his cheekiness, his personality continues now that he's gone to a world we call unseen. So I hope you found these helpful. I will do my best to point you in the direction to where to get these if you wish to. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. But I wanted to come on here to try and give you another side of the coin, that Ouija boards are merely a tool to help people open the door to the spirit world. And hopefully the door will remain stone for greater things to come. So it's goodbye from me, goodbye from my helpers who have either drawn close to dust my consciousness or my soul to speak, and I wish you well in your investigation of looking at different ways of communicating. Now, remember, what you may have had one day will be different the next. So try, wherever possible, keep your thoughts to the highest source, and you'll never go wrong. Take care, guys. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.